Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 92 of Talk More Talk, a solo Beatles video cast. Wow, things are really looking up, all right? And we're just, moving along. We are, as you all know, we are a bi-monthly talk show, mainly dealing with the solo careers.
Weekly.
Bi-weekly, yes, thank you. What do I know? What do I know? We're bi-weekly.
Freudian slip.
Yeah, right, there we go. Talk show mainly dealing with the solo careers of John, Paul, George, and Ringo. Every once in a while, we'll dig into a box set of the Beatles when it gets released, and hopefully we'll get some more real soon. It's been kind of a slow year for releases, and I think maybe that's okay right now. Let's give our wallet some time to rest up and recharge for maybe the last quarter of the year, because I'm sure there's going to be some goodies coming, hopefully. But anyways, I'm Tom Hunyadi. You may know me from my other show, Two Legs, a Paul McCartney podcast. I am all tongues today. Anyways, but
It's the John Lennon shirt.
It's a John Lennon shirt. It's getting me all mixed up. Today we got a special show for you all. We're doing a Q&A. You guys sent us some questions, and we're going to give you some answers. And I got a bunch of questions over here on another screen. And you guys can join us during the show and give us some questions too. Not right yet, but in a little bit, we'll ask you guys to give us some questions. But before that, let's get to my three co-hosts. My wonderful co-hosts, and first up, we're going to go with our buddy Mean Mr. Mayo, Joe Mayo, who's got that wonderful YouTube channel, Mean Mr. Mayo, where he deals with all things Beatles, solo Beatles, rants, just music in general. I mean, the vinyl collections, videos, the vinyl finds of all kinds. If you want media up to a certain point, then you're gonna like what you see with Joe Mayo. And Joe, how you doing, my friend?
Hello, Tom. Doing well, thank you. Looking forward to this Q&A tonight.
All right, we've got some good ones. Next up, she might be a little spotty today. It might be a little hit or miss with her connection. Unfortunately, she is also the queen of the weather in Illinois, and she caused up some thunderstorms because the grass has to get wet too every once in a while. So the connection might not be good, but you know her, you love her from books such as Songs We Were Singing. If you're new out there, if you haven't checked out her books, I should say, check this one out, Songs We Were Singing. And she always has this book here and Fandom in the Beatles that she worked on with her good buddy Ken Womack. And I probably 100% sure she's going to have a couple of these books over at the Fest for Beatles Fans in Chicago coming up next or in August, right? And buy it.
Yep.
So she can sell out again. So she can be another sellout, for
That's right.
And as Ken alluded to earlier, because we had fun earlier with another bonus episode we'll talk about later, but he pretty much just said it. She is the queen of everything. So it's just the queen. Kit, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm great, Tom. And yes, we here in the Chicago area just avoided a tornado.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad that we just missed it. So that's why my connection may be a little spotty tonight. So
Right.
So I think you guys can hear me okay. But if I'm a little stuttery, that's
I can
why.
hear you all right. Hopefully there's no hurricane. Hurricane. Hopefully not.
Yeah.
Hopefully not.
But she looks safe in an octopus's garden right now, swimming around with some yellow submarines.
Yep.
So I think she'll be.
That's right. This is my safe space.
Safely. There you go. And last but certainly not least, you know him from multiple things, and he's 1/3 of the power pop trio that is known as Things We Said Today, with Alan Kozin and Darren DeVivo. These guys just bring it. Again, that they're a bi-weekly show as well, and the wealth of knowledge that these three individuals have and they bring to the table is just. I've learned so much listening to Ken's show since 2012, I believe it started. And he's also responsible for the Ken Michaels Radio YouTube channel, where he has all kinds of guests, whether they're podcasters, young Beatle fans, musicians that have worked with the Beatles, DJs, you name it. If it's related to the Beatles, he has them on. Ken Michaels, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Tom. How you
Yep.
doing, Joe and Kit? Can't wait to
Good.
connect with all of our listeners and viewers.
Absolutely, absolutely. So before we get to that Q&A, Ken Michael's going to do some news. We're also going to talk about the recent Ringo shows, and Ken Michael with Ken and Joe, and Ken's also going to talk about seeing Paul at Fenway Stadium. But before that, Ken, with the news, take it away.
Thank you, Tom. Well, as I'm sure you all know, and many of us have been so disappointed to hear this, Ringo's All-Star Band tour has been postponed until September. This is due to the fact that two of the band members, first Edgar Winter, then Steve Lukather, have tested positive for COVID. Ringo is quoted as saying, "We are so sorry to let the fans down. It's been wonderful to be back on the road, and we have been having such a great time playing for you all. But as you know, COVID is still here, and despite being careful, these things happen. I want to thank the fans for their patience. I send you all peace and love, and we can't wait to be back in the fall." Like I said, the shows will be rescheduled for September, which is also when Ringo was supposed to start the second leg of his tour.
Yep.
And when the rescheduled dates become available, they'll be posted on Ringo's website, ringostar.com. Kind of concerned about this because there are 12 shows that are being postponed. And then there's an additional 20 shows from the second leg. So
Wow.
just figure that sometime early September, Ringo will be back with the All-Stars, but he'll be doing, the second leg goes up through October 20th. So it's 32 concerts for him from early September through October 20th. It's going to be 282. That's not going to be easy.
Seems like he's handling it fine, though. I mean, he's up there doing jumping jacks. I'm sure he'll be doing jumping jacks in his hotel rooms, keeping in good shape, and I'm sure he'll handle it just fine.
He's making us all look bad.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Also, Saturday, June 25th is the 13th anniversary of Global Beatles Day. Starting in 2009, it notes the anniversary of the Beatles' historic worldwide broadcast performance of their song All You Need Is Love. And given the state of the world right now, the founder of Global Beatles Day, Faith Cohen, is suggesting honoring the contributions of the Beatles by playing their music exclusively on that day, along with sharing historic and personal photos to the band's worldwide community. She is also suggesting to send the link for the performance of All You Need Is Love to 10 people in your life that really matter. This could be to family, friends, co-workers, or elected officials. It could be kings, queens, princes, presidents, ambassadors, military leaders, and law enforcement organizations. She says we want them to send links to 10 people or organizations that matter in running our world and keeping it going. Then we want them to ask those 10 entities to send it on to 10 more and ask them to do the same, on and on, from the United States, Europe, Russia, China, and even North Korea. Send the link to those in power from the local to global level who keep the world running. All right, that's a great idea, definitely.
Cool.
Mark it down.
Yeah.
June 25th for that. One major release coming out this month is Olivia Harrison's new book of 20 poems, one for each year since George's passing, called Came the Lightning, 20 Poems for George. It's 104 pages with 33 illustrations. And here is a brief description from Olivia. Here on the shore, 20 years later, my message in a bottle has reached dry land. Words about our life, his death, but mostly love and our journey to the end. End of quote. Olivia's book will be released by Genesis Publications. That's on June 21st. That's a week from tomorrow. Then there's news about another book coming from George's first wife, Patty Boyd. According to the Beatles in Print Together and Solo Facebook page, Patty Boyd is back in the news. She announced that she will have a new book coming out in October called Patty Boyd, My Life in Pictures. The publisher, Real, REEL, Real Art Press, said in their press release, My Life in Pictures is a deluxe visual treasure trove featuring over 300 photographs and artworks, with Patty sharing full and intimate access to her personal archive for the first time. Patty's archive includes letters, postcards from friends, diary entries, artifacts, and artworks. Most famously, the original Layla album cover painting by Emile Franzen. It features extensive photographs from her early modeling career, including Vogue and Vanity Fair, giving a fascinating snapshot into the sea change that occurred in the modeling industry from the post-war demure black and white approach to the psychedelic short skirt swinging 60s. The pictorial feast of imagery, I like how they word that, pictorial feast, in My Life in Pictures is further brought alive by Patty's accompanying stories and recollections, and all the pre-orders at Real Art Press will be signed by Patty Boyd. Also, Ringo's artwork was just on display through June the 12th at the C. Parker Gallery in Greenwich, Connecticut, called Painting is My Madness 2, TOO, and it's described as a unique retrospective of Ringo's artwork from 2005, including 2 never-released limited edition prints exclusive to the C. Parker Gallery. All right, Julian Lennon performed for the Everland concert for Climate, and he did a song called Change. This is during UNEP, UNEP, that stands for United Nations Environment Program, World Environmental Day celebrations. Julian was commissioned by Everland to create the theme track for a sequence of quick documentary movies about forest conservation initiatives that he represents. He not only performed this new song, Change, but also his chestnut song about the environment, Salt Water, and the song Someday. Also, Time Magazine has a brand new collector's edition out to celebrate Paul's 80th birthday, written by Glenn Greenberg, covering his entire life and career from the Beatles to today. You can now order the issue on Amazon, and it can be found in select supermarkets, bookstores, and drugstores. Wish I could bring out my copy. It's in the other room.
Yeah, I saw it the other day when I was on the checkout line. I saw it.
I hope to be interviewing the author pretty soon. I'm working on that. The magazine Classic Pop Presents has a new issue devoted to Paul, also for his 80th birthday. The front page reads, The Life and Times of a Pop Genius. Then, Beyond the Beatles, Hits, Harmony, and Heartbreak. This is a 132-page collector's issue. I'm also told Life Magazine has an issue devoted to Paul as well. Many precious items once owned by the late legendary BBC DJ John Peel will be going up for auction through Bonhams. For Beatle fans, these would include a ticket to the 1968 premiere of the film Yellow Submarine at the London Pavilion, and autographed copies of the Beatles' White Album with John's signature on it and John's signature on the Two Virgins album, with the couple, of course, being nude on the front cover, which has an estimated price of $25,000. Now, this auction actually starts tomorrow. And to register, you can go to bonhams.com. A few big events happening. There'll be a Beatles festival in Charlotte, North Carolina on July 22nd and 23rd. Among the guests there will be the band The Circle, Mickey Dolenz, and the tribute bands The Fab Four and the Tosco Music Beatles Tribute. For more information, you can go to their website, fabfestcharlotte.org. The Fab Four Music Festival, hosted by Charles Rosenay, is a one-day all Beatles and solo music festival with 10 bands from the tri-state area playing. This year it'll be held on August the 6th at the Simsbury Meadows Performing Arts Center in Simsbury, Connecticut. For more information, you can go to Fab4, that's the number 4, musicfestival.com. And Pete Best will be making a rare appearance in the United States. He'll be appearing at the Super Mega Fest at the Westford Regency Inn in Westford, Massachusetts, the weekend of September 30th through October the 2nd.
And I'm thinking of going there, by the way. Excuse me. It's going to be a long drive, but I never met Pete.
Okay, it's not that often that he comes here to the U.S.
Yeah.
He's up there in age too. For more information, go to supermegafest.com. Of course, a reminder, the Fest for Beatle fans happening at the Hyatt Regency O'Hare in Chicago, August 12th through the 14th. Go to thefest.com for more information. That's it.
right. Cool. Has anybody got any information on the May Pang John Lennon Lost Weekend documentary? Does anybody know where they can see it? Is it streaming anywhere? Does anyone know? Because I do not.
I know that you had to purchase a ticket online. I think it's being screened. I'm trying to remember which film festival it is, but those are sold out. However, I heard that it will probably be streamed. I think it needs a distributor, but I think it's safe to say it'll find one soon because the buzz.
Right.
Yeah, the buzz on it is very positive. So I think, no word on a physical release yet. I think it's a little soon. But I've heard that, word is there's going to be a streaming, general release at some point.
And I believe our good friend Ken Womack reviewed the film as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. He did. Yep. And also Skylar Moody, who is Ken interviewed her on his YouTube channel, Ken Michaels Radio. She attended a screening of it and reviewed it on her channel. Did a quick review of it, which is really worth watching. It's really had some very interesting insights into it. So Skylar Moody. If you want to check her out on Facebook and on TikTok.
The Skylar Moody. And Ed Chen says the Tribeca.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you.
Showing on showing on Friday the 10th.
That's right.
Okay. Which I believe is sold out. I mean, online. Yeah.
Not surprised. Okay, excellent. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Kits. Thank you, Joe. Let's get to some reviews here. Ringo just did before the unfortunate postponing of the tour. He did a little stint at the Beacon Theater, and our own Ken Michaels and Joe Mayo I don't think we're at the same shows, but they were at different shows. And Joe, why don't we start with you? How was your experience seeing Ringo this time at the Beacon?
Well, I had a wonderful time. First of all, everything worked out great. The weather was great. Well, when I first got there and taking a trip in with my friend Robert S., we went into Manhattan, had a great time, great weather, and we first stopped off to the Dakota and Strawberry Fields, which was nice to go over there and spend some time before the show. And then the actual show, I just thought it was wonderful. Ringo, again, I don't have to repeat what everyone's saying. Looks fantastic, has all the stamina, energy of a young person, jumping around, doing jumping jacks, going crazy on stage. Really, absolutely full of energy and inspiration to us all. And one thing I noticed right away, this being the third of three at the Beacon, the last show of the stint there, I noticed that Edgar Winter wasn't there, and that I didn't know why. Ringo didn't make any announcement or say anything; he just wasn't there. And now we know that he had COVID, and supposedly Ringo mentioned it the second show. He wasn't at the second show. I'm sure Ken will get into his show. Ken saw the first show of three, but the second show Ringo supposedly did mention why Edgar wasn't there, but he didn't say anything the show I went to. But Ringo was in good form. The band was in great form. He really loves playing with these guys. He's been doing it for like 10 years now, I think. I don't know if any songs varied, because I started wondering if they replaced any songs because Edgar Winter hadn't shown up there. He did Octopus's Garden. He did I'm the Greatest. Those two struck me as being a little unusual. Ken, what do you?
Well, he's done I'm the Greatest quite a lot on his all.
Yeah, well, I've seen him in past years.
Yeah, Octopus's Garden was the big surprise because really he's only done that with the Roundheads, on a few select shows and on Storytellers on VH1. So, and he always made a point to say he's not going to do Yellow Submarine and Octopus's Garden. He's not going to do the two underwater songs in the same show. And so, you know, a lot of people have questioned him through the years. Why don't you do Octopus's Garden? Well, he started doing this, doing the song on this tour. But I was fortunate because the show that I went to did have Edgar Winter. And I think the band was fantastic overall. I mean, they were just cooking, very, very tight. I will say that the mix there at the Beacon I thought was pretty bad though, because it's very echoey there from where I was sitting. A lot of people I know said the same thing, but I couldn't find fault with the band because they really were clicking. They were on all cylinders. You could have predicted all the songs that would have been done, same songs that you would expect from these band members. You know, Colin Hay is back. Actually, you know, if you go back a few years before COVID, this is the same band that he had then, as well as adding Hamish Stewart to the band. But I did notice that there was something different about Edgar that night because, you know, he's always so fired up and so full of energy. And even on his worst night, he still has energy. But you know, he didn't seem to be as close to the others physically. There are some times there when, especially on Frankenstein, he and Warren Ham would play the sax together and be right next to each other on stage. But usually if you're used to seeing the band, especially with Greg Raleigh, and I guess most of the other all-star bands too, the keyboard would always be facing the band. When I saw this show, the first of the three shows, the keyboard was facing the opposite direction and Edgar's back was to the band. There wasn't as much of a close feeling between Edgar and all the others. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, and like Joe said, it was only on the second show when Ringo announced that Edgar had COVID, and on the third show, he didn't say a word about it. And so from what I understand, the shows were exactly the same, except minus the Edgar Winter songs, which means you didn't get Frankenstein, you didn't get Free Ride.
Right.
And also has been doing Johnny Be Good since it's on the brand new tribute album to his brother Johnny, and that sounded great. But the band was fantastic. And
it's just a shame that such a talented group, you know, you can't, you know, fit in three other songs, you know, to make up for. It's just me. I mean, you know, if you can't make up three songs in that group, I mean, shame on you.
Ringo could have done Snookeroo. I wouldn't have had a problem with that.
Ringo could have they could have easily done three other songs. I wholeheartedly believe they could have done three other Ringo songs.
What is it? Be Good Johnny?
Be Good John. Yeah, that, you know, What's My Name, you know, with
I was going to mention that, and Astro Jared brought it up in the comments. Nothing from What's My Name or the song What's My Name. I mean, you know, that's insane because I mean that would be perfect for for his live shows. The song,
It seems like Ringo's set list for himself is getting even safer.
Right.
You know? And the most recent music was from 1973. You know?
Wow.
Before I forget, Ken, I should mention too, I haven't mentioned it in a rare effort not to be so negative. However, I did think that the sound was off. I didn't really want the Beacon, one the show I went to, where I was sitting anyway. You know, I was kind of up a level, and I did a video which I would urge everybody to see. It's really a fun video. It has segments from the show, but it also has the Strawberry Fields and you know, Dakota Visit, which is also fun to go there on a nice day. I mean, but you know. But when I made the video, I thought that some of the songs didn't sound as bad as when I was there. It's weird, but I enjoyed myself nevertheless. I mean, I think it got better for me to my ears as the night went on. When I first heard it, I was a little taken aback. I was like, "So the sound isn't so good," you know.
Right. That's a shame.
I enjoyed myself.
It's a shame because I was there in April, you know, right after the fest, the last day of the fest, to see a show there, and I thought it sounded amazing. So. You know, that's disappointing to hear that you guys have experienced.
No, but I had a great time. I had a good time. You know,
it's still a great show no matter what. But even when band members were talking on stage, I had trouble hearing what they were saying because it was very echoey. to me.
Interesting.
You know,
Okay.
yeah, I brought this up from time to time. Having seen all of Ringo's tours, early on, he used to do something which he stopped doing several years ago, which is having solo members have solo moments and be
Mm.
alone on stage, or they might be with another musician. And if you're caught in a position like this where you don't have Edgar Winter, how difficult would it have been to have Colin Hay just come up on stage and do a song on acoustic guitar, which he
Right.
could probably do in his sleep? You know, he tours every single year. All these musicians are so talented where they can just do a song alone
Absolutely.
for the most part. So, you know, you could make up for the loss of songs that way. And I will tell you that it is such a joy to see Frankenstein performed by this band, even though Ringo leaves the stage for that. But Greg Bissonette, oh my God, what a monster on drums. You know, the way
He's incredible.
yeah, I'm watching Ringo through most of the show when he's drumming, but I'm also watching Greg watching Ringo and how he compliments him. But there's a moment there towards the end of Frankenstein where Greg does a solo by himself, and he does the drum parts of Come Together, and he also does the drum part of Tomorrow Never Knows,
Oh,
and he does Honky Tonk Women also. You know, he sneaks all this in there,
Wow.
and then he goes back with there's like a drum duel between him and Edgar Winter, and it's a lot of fun to watch. A killer performance. It's a song that's so great to do live by any band.
Oh,
And
yeah,
Edgar Winter switches from keyboards to sax to drums, and it's such a great moment. And it still was a fantastic show. I just wish, you know, like you said, the song "What's My Name." Colin Hay wrote it. He's there in the
yeah.
back. What's
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No brainer.
The audience could interact.
yeah.
Right.
Ring,
And I
but
was,
I have one thing about Edgar Winter I want to say too. Frankenstein. I bought that single when I was like 11 years old.
yeah.
I mean, I the short version, but then later I got the album, which is a little longer. But I love that song, and also I like Free Ride. You know, had I not seen Edgar in the past with the All Stars, then I would have been ultra disappointed. I mean, you know, I wasn't happy that he wasn't there, but at least I got to see him and do Frankenstein with the All Stars, you know, and Free Ride in the past when I'd seen him with the band.
yeah.
Okay.
But
All right.
an amazing show, no matter what. And just sorry that two of the members got COVID. If you get a chance, see them when they come back in September.
Should I add that you know, again, this is like with the McCartney set list talk, trying to be objective. You know, I mean, I have a good time no matter who Ringo is with. I'll have a good time. These guys, they work really good with Ringo. They, you know, Ringo loves playing with these guys. But one of the appealing things of all these All-Star tours in the past were always who's he going to have as the lineup this tour?
Right.
You know, and he hasn't changed them. I don't know if he's ever going to change them anymore. You know, it'd be nice to have a different lineup too. Much as I like this one.
Well, like I
Right.
said, he brought back Colin Hay and Hamish Stewart, you know, because Todd Rundgren left a while ago and Richard Page left as well.
Mhm.
So to make up for them, he added these two musicians. And I know I
Right.
brought this up before, but the song "We're on the Road Again," Ringo
Yeah.
wrote it with Steve Lukather. He's in the band.
He's in the band.
They're on the road.
On the road.
He even said that. Ringo even says that at one point, on the road again, he says.
Well,
We're on the
speaking
road
of on
again.
the road again, Paul is also on the road again. And Ken Michaels, you got to see him. I believe it was the first show at Fenway Park. He did a back-to-back night stint at Fenway, and you got to the first show, correct? And how was that?
It was very good. The thing that I noticed was that Paul's vocals, I think, were a little bit better than the last time that I saw him. I'm not gonna, say he sang great, but I think that he was more in control of his voice. And I spent a lot of time really just focusing on Paul and his singing. And I think the thing that I want to bring up is that he wasn't trying as much to really sing loud or to project himself. He was doing what he was capable of doing and not trying to push himself to go beyond that. And I think he
Absolutely.
from doing that. And like you were saying, Kit, I was stunned that he pulled off Maybe I'm Amazed as well as he did.
Yeah.
Not 1976,
Right.
amazed, but it still is pretty darn good.
Yep.
And you know, the band was great. Again, I had a problem with the mix from where I was sitting. There were too many times when I felt Paul's vocals were drowned out. And this is to be expected now. Every time you see McCartney in concert, it's so much of a big event. It's a religious experience. There are certain songs like Hey Jude, where everybody sings it in the crowd. And I'm looking at Paul on the screen. I want to hear Paul sing it, but I'm just seeing his, you know,
Right.
same thing with Obla Da, which is a great crowd pleaser. It's just great to have that kind of feeling, that electricity in the air, and the reverence that's there for him at these concerts. In Boston, I've said before, is my favorite place, Fenway Park, to see Paul, because I really think they really do it up in the city. There's posters everywhere. McCartney's back. And even, you know, I was watching the news there on television. They're giving the weather. The weather tonight for the Paul McCartney concert, 86 degrees. Always mention McCartney. And they say it all over the radio. They really give him a welcome. I pay careful attention to people getting up out of their seats at certain songs. And even though there were a few people who got up for My Valentine, nothing as bad as I've seen in New York. I think they're far more respectful of Paul in that town. Boston is a great Beatle town. It really is. And, you know, I really love the show. And the thing that surprised me the most is that, and you've heard me go on and on about how I wish there was more solo music. I didn't feel as though this was so Beatle heavy. It still felt like he put in enough stuff from his post-Beatles career, especially when he goes from Junior's Farm to Letting Go, back to back. And like we've said, a big thrill for me is watching other people in the audience, seeing families with parents and their kids next to each other, and their first reaction to seeing Paul for the first time, and just knowing that this is a great opportunity to see an icon like this. You know, who knows how much longer he's going to keep doing this. And this is really, truly a blessing that Paul and Ringo are going out at their age doing this, because someday these young people are going to tell their kids, you know,
Right.
Paul McCartney, I saw Ringo Starr at that time. It was very weird to hear You Never Give Me Your Money being
Right.
stuck in the way that it was. I didn't think it made much sense. I don't know why he did that. And to be honest with you, the I've Got a Feeling moment, I wasn't too impressed by it. The main reason why, I mean, I thought it was a good idea to begin with, is that what I wanted to see was John on the screen and Paul reacting to him.
Right.
Singing along with him, looking at him. He didn't do that. He looked at the audience. So in the very beginning, when John sang his part, it was John on all three screens. And then later on, it was the two of them, but still, you know, when they do sing together, you don't see Paul look at John, which would have been cool.
Right.
Just to hear the
That's the issue I had.
Yeah.
Yep, that's the issue I had in Orlando. He wasn't really looking at the screen. You know, it was kind of like the novelty had worn off for him. And yeah, I completely agree.
Because he was doing that in some of the early clips, right? The Spokane clip or something.
Yeah.
He turned around and looked at the screen.
And that's what was so touching,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, but I can see him getting very emotional by doing that, and then maybe flubbing a line or two or something. So maybe he wouldn't do that because of that reason. But yeah.
None of your feeble excuses.
Yeah. I mean, he looked right out to the crowd when I saw him at SoFi. So I can definitely get how, you know, wanting to see that interaction between the two would have made it that more special.
But, you know, I actually kind of enjoy it when Paul does get emotional. It shows how human he is. And when he does Here Today, you can't get much better than the studio recording on Tug of War. But there is something to be said about when he does it live and he gets choked up every now and then. And it touches you, In terms of actual performance, I kind of prefer Tug of War, the version on there. But when you see him actually be affected as he's singing these words, that gets to me. And, it's a very emotional moment for him. And it affects me, and I'm sure many fans watching him and hearing him sing it.
Right.
But great show. I mean, the mere fact that he can pull this off. It's about 80. It's almost 3 hours in concert, and just to see the crowd love him, the way that they did, just amazing. It's an amazing thing to witness.
Right. You both you and Joe will be seeing the Paul again here on the 16th at MetLife Stadium. So will my partner in crime, Andy Nichols, will be there as well. And it looks like a bunch of people that we all know in this, in our little podcasting Beatles world will be there as well. So it'll be good to hear from those people as well. Ken, did you pick any shirts up or anything like that at the show?
Not at all. I figured I'd do it all this Thursday.
Okay, fair enough.
Ken is into the music.
That's right.
I know, but
obviously,
he's into shirts too. He's wearing it.
I know. I'm sure there are a lot of people watching this show that are thinking I need a new wardrobe at this point. So
somebody was asking about your shirt. What shirt is that? It's the Run Devil Run.
It's the Live at the Cavern.
Live at the Cavern.
The Cavern. Yeah.
Yeah, but
99.
From things we said today, he was there at that concert.
Right.
In 1990.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very lucky man.
Yep.
That would have been very cool to have witnessed that show.
Very lucky. Very lucky.
There you go.
Uh-oh.
And if that's going to be it for now, we'll move on to our main part of the show with the Q&A. Yep, look at that watch, Joe. Keep us on pace here, buddy.
What does your watch say? Tick,
That's
tick,
right.
tick, 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 tick.
It'd be like Paul.
Right. Yeah.
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 So a bunch of people, asked us questions, whether it was on YouTube, email, Facebook, and thank you for sending those. I'm going to start asking a few here in a second, but if in a few minutes, if you have any questions that you want to ask, please feel free to type away here in the comment section. So speaking of honeymooners, our good friend Gary Wilbur dropped a question for us, and it's a pretty interesting one, a pretty controversial one, as a matter of fact, and one that we haven't really discussed here, except for part of it. Part of the question we just discussed, but here we go. Gary's question is, what's everyone's opinion on future concerts incorporating holograms or other technical wizardry to put together all four Beatles, or a combination that would include George and or John? I'm thinking the trend in recent years of concerts using past images, recordings, and dialogue of deceased musicians in live concert shows. Also, since Paul used clips of Peter Jackson's documentary showing John singing his part of I Got a Feeling in order for Paul to do a duet. So what's everybody's thoughts on this hologram thing, and then also incorporating other musicians' vocals in these? And Joe, we'll start with you with this question.
Okay. Well, regarding the holograms. No, holograms. No. People ask that a lot, and my first instinct is to say, it's desperation. I'm not a fan of that idea, putting up holograms, and stuff. But then I say, you know what? What the heck? If it was done really well, maybe I would get a kick out of trying it out. So generally my first impression is to say, oh, you don't need that. And it's ridiculous. And what next? They had one thing. Didn't they have a show once with Elvis with the leather jacket? Elvis's jacket is something I thought they had years ago before the holograms. But then I say, well, wait a minute. It's not so fast. If it's if it's done really well, and it looks like you think you're really seeing the Beatles performing up there, and there's no flickering or anything, I might be like, hey, it's pretty cool. As far as the other thing about like what happened with I've Got a Feeling, is it, you mean like that, like with
incorporating other
John?
deceased members' vocals into the show as well.
I don't know about just the vocals coming in, but what they did with Peter Jackson did with John for I've Got a Feeling with the McCartney tour was a nice touch as a novelty. I'm wondering how much they could do in the sense of, do they have that much footage? I'm still impressed by the fact that there's so much of John. It's just on John the camera in that thing with I've Got a Feeling, and for the whole thing, I'm like, I don't remember ever seeing any footage available like that, where it just stays on John and it's not cutting the back and forth. I don't know how they got one camera. I guess they have everything. Huh? So I don't know. Yeah, just don't overdo it. I mean, it might be too much of a good thing. I mean, the novelty was all right with John.
Right. Okay. Kid, let's move on to you.
Okay, get ready, folks. My views on
holograms.
Get ready. They give me the creeps. I am not a fan of holograms. I mean, there is no way I would pay money to go and see a hologram. I know I've seen them done. I know there was a Michael Jackson one done at, I believe it was the Billboard Music Awards a few years ago. There was a Tupac Shakur one done at Coachella some years ago. And yeah, I know they can, yes, they can be done, so it looks incredible, blah, blah, blah. I mean, to see people applauding a hologram, you're applauding nothing. It's smoke and mirrors, folks. It's nothing. I just would not spend money on that. I mean, it just absolutely gives me the creeps. There was talk, I think, before COVID that the Whitney Houston estate was going to put on a tour with a hologram of Whitney Houston. No. No. Now, the second part of that question, that doesn't bother me as much to have, like what Paul did, because at least, that is footage of the real John, his real voice. In fact, I remember, and you guys may remember this, and those of you watching may remember, I think there was a maybe not a full-fledged tour, but there was an event where members of Elvis's touring band played live to concert footage of Elvis.
Yes.
And I do you remember this?
Yeah.
Something like
okay.
That. Yes.
Yeah. Do you remember that? Okay. That doesn't bother me as much, because at least, again, that's real Elvis footage. I don't know, kind of jury's out as to whether I would pay to see a full night of that, but at least, it's not exactly, smoke and mirrors. There's some historical context there. Was his real band. We all have kind of issues about how maybe the I've Got a Feeling section of the Paul concert was executed, but at least I think that was done tastefully. I agree with you, Joe. I wouldn't want to see that overdone. I think if he did that with a number of songs, that could get a little old, but it wouldn't bother me if he did it, occasionally in his shows, because that to me, it was touching in a way to see, an 80-year-old now coming up, 80-year-old Paul singing with a 20-something John. I mean, it did have, it did kind of put a lump in the throat. So that's okay. But hologram, absolutely not.
Okay.
You wanted opinions.
Except
there you go.
Maybe we'll do a talk more talk with time. If a kid can't make it or something, we'll have a hologram kiddo too.
Hologram kid.
You better not.
All right.
We'll record her now.
Don't you dare.
Use her voice later. It's still going to be the real thing.
Right. All right, Ken, what are your thoughts?
They're very mixed on this, and it's really ironic that Gary brought this up, because another one of our listeners, Kyle Hand, who also watches this show, wrote to us for things we said today about the very same thing. And he had on one that had to do with ABBA. And he sent me a link of what was done, and it looks like you're seeing the band on screen doing a live concert. And I don't really see the benefit in something like that if you can just watch old footage of the Beatles themselves in concert. Right. The question that I would have to ask, well, questions is, what are you going to do material-wise? What are the Beatles going to perform in concert here? Is it only going to be songs that they did in concert through 1966?
Right.
That, how do you achieve that? Do you take solo performances of that later Beatles music and then somehow mix that in and make it a Beatles performance with all four of them? You know, vocals from Paul doing Sgt. Pepper or something like that. What are you going to do? And if you're going to use the studio recordings of the Beatles after 1966, what good is that? It wouldn't really be a live performance. What are you going to do? Add crowd sound effects or something? And I don't know what exactly you do. And if it was, say, a Beatles concert for today, would there be solo songs in there? How do you work that in? You know, it's very complicated. I don't know, I'd have to fully understand what exactly would be done and the way that it's presented for me to really pass judgment on this. But, you know, I don't understand what the big thrill would be when you can go on YouTube right now and see a lot of Beatles performances, the real thing, in good quality. Why would you want anything other than that? Unless you want to hear them in some way do later music.
Well, for devil's advocate, though, here, I would think the idea would be that it's like you're at a concert on stage, right? They do it on the stage and make it look with the audience rather than watching a TV screen or something.
Yeah.
It looks like they're on stage with you, but I guess they're on. I don't really know if they're really on stage.
I mean, I'm picturing, like, I don't even know what these things are like. I mean, they look like you actually see three-dimensional figures on the stage, you know, not watching a movie screen, you know. Is that what the idea is? I don't even know.
You know, we have to know more about this to fully judge whether it makes any sense. But judging by what Paul just did with Peter Jackson, which I think is like, I think it's going to be a one-off with him. I don't think he's going to keep doing this. But Paul and Ringo seem to be very open-minded about embracing new technology. You know, they're always going on Twitter or Instagram all the time and sending messages to their fans and doing things like that. So there's a possibility. I know that, you know, Apple wants to do whatever they can to keep the Beatles brand, Beatle brand going, and to always have new product out there and to find a way to get new audiences to the music. So that might be something they'd consider, but I think that there's probably going to be other, maybe better ways of getting the music out there than this. But it seems to be, at the moment, the fad of the times. So we'll see.
Right. Yeah, I don't know how successful these things are, because we know Roy Orbison did, the estate did that, the Ronnie James Dio estate did a few hologram shows as well. And I wish I would have done more research on that and see how those, you know, if they were successful, did they make money? Did, you know, would they do it again? You know, but I from my understanding too, is they do look good. But again, I kind of feel like with this Julian Lennon auction type thing, I mean, what are you really getting, you know, for your money? You know, so I would cancel that myself. I'd cancel it out. I have no interest in it whatsoever. And like Ken, like you, I would like this just to be a one-time thing with the Lennon vocals right now. If he's going to go out and tour again, you know, maybe not do it, maybe like bring it out like every other tour or something, depending on how many more years he's going to tour, you know. I can, but you see, the thing is, I think he could have done this a long time ago with these isolated. They could have got John's isolated vocals, probably. I think before.
I
Couldn't
don't know
he?
about that.
Um,
I don't know. I don't know. Wasn't that like with the Peter Jackson
yeah,
direct
yeah, but
tie-in from
I
what he's been
mean,
working on now? I
right,
thought.
but I don't
I
understand why.
mean,
I mean, look at the Beatles, the game. They were getting, look at all that isolation stuff they were able to get. So I don't
well,
see
the
why they
video. I
couldn't have
mean, the
got.
video
You know,
too, not just the vocal, not just the music. I mean, the video, like all that video. They got it. You know, I don't remember them being in the vaults, going
mhm,
into the vault to get at that stuff before this.
Anything that was recorded professionally into a mixing board, which the Apple
right.
Rooftop concert was, you can isolate the vocals.
Hmm.
You know, the question is how great a shot are you going to get of John and clear a shot of John doing it
Right.
Right.
by himself at that moment. In this way, it worked. You
Hmm.
know,
Yep.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
you
I'm
know.
thinking of other songs I'd like to see that happen. Maybe we can work it out, and then they can get John's vocals for his section. Life is very short. That would be kind of cool too. But I wouldn't want him to keep trying to find new ways to incorporate John into his shows. Maybe he will. Who knows? All right, moving on. We got a next question here from Mark Zutkoff, who's watching now, I believe, and he brought
Yes,
up
he is.
something we haven't talked about really in depth yet, and I'm sure we were waiting for the 50th anniversary of this, but I'm kind of glad. I mean, we're still 2 years away, so why not talk about it a little bit right now? And his question was, I suspect we won't see a release from the 74 Harrison tour until 2024 at the earliest. So you're probably not planning on doing a show at the time, which, yeah, right, we're not. You're probably heard one or more recordings from the tour. So avoiding the obvious issues of George's voice, what are the Talk More Talk team's thoughts about, and we'll just break it down in the sections here, George's choice of Beatles songs for inclusion in the set list, particularly John's song In My Life. And this time we'll start with you, Ken.
well, first of all, I might be the only one here among the four of us that actually got to see George on that tour.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
But overall, when I think about that 74 tour, it reminds me very much of the concert for Bangladesh, in the sense that George, I don't want to use the word padded, but he had so many of his friends there to do their
Right.
own songs that George did a lot less than what you would expect in a full concert. And such was the case in the 74 tour between the Ravi Shankar material and Tom Scott.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that too. That's going to be another part of the question.
But yeah, I suppose he could have done more Beatles songs. I would always tend to think, since they're so iconic now, there's the big three. There's Something, Here Comes the Sun, and While My Guitar Gently Weeps. And he didn't do Here Comes the Sun. He did the other two in that tour. He also did For You Blue and In My Life. And actually, given how religious and spiritual George was at the time, I had no problem with him changing the words a bit on In My Life. I know a lot of people took offense to it, but George was into the spiritual side of things, and he wanted to give his own interpretation of the song. I don't mind when artists do that, when they do a somewhat different arrangement. So that didn't bother me at all. But my main beef with the tour, and even still, when I went to see him, I couldn't hear him too well. I couldn't even tell if his voice was hoarse, because most of the time I couldn't hear him. But, I just wish he did more material, period, more from his solo career. And yeah, when you consider what he later did in Japan by mixing in like Taxman and If I Needed Someone and Piggies and those songs, he probably could have done some of that as well. I think he should have added a few more Beatles songs, and I think he should have added a lot more of his solo songs. But considering the fact that, his catalog with the Beatles, what is it, 24 songs of his own? I wouldn't have expected him to do like half of them. I'd only expect him to do like a handful of them, and probably the more recent stuff. So yeah, I would have loved Here Comes the Sun. I would have loved the songs that I mentioned. And also kind of ironic, when you think about it. Why didn't he try to do the Indian stuff? He's got Ravi Shankar there. He's got Indian musicians there. Why couldn't he do Within You Without You, or
Yeah.
the Inside for that matter?
Love you too.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting.
But I think he should have done a few more Beatles songs and a lot more of his solo material, considering how successful he was with All Things Must Pass and Living in the Material
Right.
World, and then the new album Dark Horse. Those are my thoughts about it. I wish there was more of George and less of the others. Nothing against the other musicians, but that's how George got through the tour, by having his friends also take up a good chunk of it. Maybe George wasn't ready to do a full 2-hour show of just his music. So those are my thoughts about it.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because he's always in a way band minded as well, giving the other band members their minutes in the spotlight as well. So I mean, I can kind of get it, but not to that extent like you were talking about, Ken. I agree with you. Kit, let's move on with you.
Okay, well, the first part of this question, yeah, I found it fascinating. I find it fascinating that he chose In My Life. I understand he chose it as kind of a tribute to John, kind of a salute to him. It's interesting that he picked In My Life, because obviously there were a number of other songs he could have picked. And perhaps it is, kind of what you were saying, Ken, that it can be interpreted in a spiritual way, and he did change the lyrics a bit to reflect that, but we'll talk about that further in a minute. But it is interesting, why that one. And when there were others he could have chosen. Why not Here Comes the Sun? He's done it before. I mean, he did it at Bangladesh, and did it extremely well. I mean, that would have gotten a great reception. It doesn't surprise me though that he didn't play more Beatles stuff, because remember, this is a time where this is his first headlining tour, and I think he was trying to establish himself as his own as a solo artist, and probably was trying to not completely distance himself from the Beatles stuff. I mean, he knows that he's always going to be identified with that, but he probably figured, okay, I have to play a few songs to for the crowd, but right. I want to focus on other things. But you have a good point, Ken, that why didn't he play more solo stuff then? I mean, why didn't he play more from All Things Must Pass or Living the Material World or whatever? I mean, you'd think, okay, if you feel that way, why didn't you play even more? But in a way, though, then that slim, the slim number of songs from the Beatles years doesn't surprise me. I mean, Paul did that in the early years when he was touring with Wings, because he wanted to establish, this is who he is now. So yeah, I think the slim number of Beatles songs doesn't surprise me.
Okay.
Particularly.
All right.
Gotcha. Even the Wings Over America tour, he only did 5 Beatles songs.
Right.
Exactly. And look at him now. Yeah.
Think about John, the one-to-one concert.
Right.
All was come together.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, one.
Yeah.
We'll go in the past.
One. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Joe, what do you got?
Well, yeah, it doesn't surprise me that George didn't do more Beatles songs at that particular time, and he kind of did everything, from what I've heard, what I understand, his way, the way he wanted to present everything. I didn't like him changing the lyrics personally, and I think he also changed the lyrics of While My Guitar Gently Weeps.
Right. Yeah.
Didn't he also do that? But I think I can't really offer anything else. I wish I had seen the tour just to say that I got to see George, but I've heard a lot of lackluster stuff about that tour, and it would be good to have a documentary or something out so we could really judge it and maybe get a new reappraisal or something. But a story that I always think about is how, if you recall again in the anthology, I remember there's footage of the surviving Beatles sitting around a table talking about different things. And George is belly aching about how, oh, I went to see Elvis and it was so disappointing. And I just kept thinking, just put your jeans on and sing That's All Right, Mama. That's what I want to see, that kind of thing. And here he is, oh, but he got mad at the fans who didn't appreciate it, and he would say, I think there's a story where he kind of said at one point, I die for Indian music, but not for this, pointing to his guitar or something like that, because he didn't like the reaction or something of the crowd. But I always thought that was a little hypocritical. It's like, you see, well, you see what it means to be a fan, right? When you're a fan, you want to hear That's All Right, Mama from Elvis, or, Hound Dog, or whatever it is. But maybe as the artist, you want to do what you want, That's really all I have to say about it. I would like to be able to see a really nice quality release of that sometime with the best moments in there, and really have a new appraisal of it.
Okay, cool. And then just we'll talk a minute about the inclusion of the other artists. Billy Preston, I think, did a few songs in there as well. It was in 2 sets, and then in between, Ravi Shankar and his musicians then performed. But yeah, I agree with Ken in that sense. It's just like, you have all these wonderful Indian musicians, and and whether or not Ravi Shankar liked those songs or not, it's George's tour.
Yes.
Did you a favor by doing that concert for Bangladesh, so let's maybe return the favor. But yeah, it's a kind of like your scratch your head type of thing with this tour. And it seemed like the people were into it. From the research that I've done, they were excited for the tour. They wanted it to be successful. I did hear that the Ravi Shankar bit got booed quite often, and I was kind of surprised by that, because he was very popular there for a while in the late 60s, early 70s. If you watch his performance in the Monterey Pop documentary, he gets a standing ovation. People were excited for him during the concert for Bangladesh, so it's just really odd that the people would turn on him so quickly there. But yeah, any other thoughts then about the changing of the lyrics? Kit, did you have any a thought on that then?
Yeah, I'm sure that did upset some people, because these are Beatles songs. To probably people, they're almost sacred in a way. They're part of part of our, we were talking about it earlier, part of our DNA. And right. To change them, it just that just seems just like you can't do that. But I think, again, this was part of, you were kind of touching on this, Ken, part of kind of establishing, this is who I am now.
Right.
This is this is the direction, the creative direction I'm going in, the obviously spiritual, this is who I am. I'm not Beatle George, anymore. And so I think, that's what he was trying to do. And probably fans didn't appreciate that, to change the lyrics like that. So, was it the best thing to do? For personal reasons, I can see why he did it. But in terms of, for the fans, probably not the best idea.
Okay, cool.
Any
other last thoughts? Please, yeah.
As far as Ravi Shankar is concerned, there's a huge difference between starting the concert for Bangladesh off with him, and then the rest of the concert is rock music, and sticking him right in the middle of the concert, because that's really kind of poor positioning in a way. Yeah, I'm sure that there are a lot of fans that respect Ravi and how much George meant to Ravi, and there was a growing audience for Indian music happening at the time in the late 60s. Ravi getting a lot of attention, a lot of it thanks to George bringing that music to the Beatles. But, to stick him right in the middle of the show, I would not have done it that way. The pacing of it would have been, thrown off. And also, it's funny in retrospect now to think, why didn't he do more Beatles songs? Sometimes people just don't realize how successful the Beatles were in their solo careers in the 70s, especially in the first half of the 70s. If I was any one of the four of them and I achieved the kind of chart success with singles and albums, George Harrison, All Things Must Pass was a #1 album. Living in the Material World was a #1 album. The Concert for Bangladesh went to #2, but it was such a big event.
Right.
Dark Horse, didn't do as well as the others, but it still went to #4 on the charts. I would be thinking there isn't as much of a need for me to be doing that much Beatles music. So
yeah, he had his own hits to draw from. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like I said, the same thing with Paul. They're establishing themselves on their own. And it's not a slight to the Beatles. They're proud of the Beatle past, but they didn't want to have to rely on it.
Right. Yeah. I get you. I agree. All right, let's move on. Question from Bob Keeley, I believe how you pronounce his last name. You can only take 4 solo Beatle albums with you to a desert island. Which 4 do you take? And they do not have to be one from each. They could be 3 Ringos if you want to, or 1 George. However, the combination you want it, you got it. And this time we will start with the queen of everything.
Bob, this was tough. This was really tough. I changed my choices a couple of times, but finally got it down to this. So I would.
Glad you had the time.
Yeah.
Retired guy.
I didn't read the questions in advance.
Yeah, really. Yeah, you're retired now. I would take all things. I would take All Things Must Pass. Always, I mean, you just never get tired of that album. It's a journey.
Right.
Spiritually, musically, you name it. Tug of War. Of course, we've been talking about that album recently. It's just always meant a great deal to me, and one of Paul's finest, and one of the earliest Paul albums I ever owned. Imagine. That is, hard to, I was torn between this and Plastic Ono Band, but I'm like, if I'm on a deserted island, I don't know if I want to be listening to Plastic Ono Band. I think Imagine, because that was what?
Isolation works if you're on a desert island.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Isolation is a kind of goes with the theme. That's true. But Imagine is probably the first John album I ever owned, and I still absolutely love it. And last one, this was tough, but I think I'm going to go with Flaming Pie. I love that album. I just as the years have gone by, it's just got everything,
Okay.
Beauty, it's got humor, you name it. So those are my 4.
Can't argue with that. Joe, you need some more time, or do you want to go with Ken next?
No, it was easy actually, because now that I'm doing it, it's going to be very boring because it's predictable. But I'm thinking, if I want one by each. I want to have everyone represented. So I would do Imagine for John. All Things Must Pass for George, because there's so much on there. For one thing, so much great stuff. These are not necessarily I'm thinking of. These are all my favorites. Maybe they are. I don't know. By each one, I don't know. And then I'd put the Ringo album. I would have to have the Ringo album. I love Ringo and all his great songs on there, and memories of when I was a youth, and the singles were out there like Photograph and You're 16 and stuff. And for Paul, although this might not be my #1, I know it's not my #1 Paul album personally, but I'd pick Band on the Run. Ram is probably my #1 Paul album, but I think I would have to have those songs again for those reasons. It has to do with warm and fuzzy nostalgic feelings, and hearing Jet, and being able to listen to Jet, and being able to listen to Band on the Run and 1985.
Let's not
so
talk
on.
about Jet right now because I'm a little bitter
Yeah.
about that still.
Yeah,
okay?
I know. You missed Jet and your show. And now
Right.
Paul's added Jet into the
Yeah.
lineup.
If you guys get that on the 16th, let me tell you, I'm just gonna be even more bitter.
Karina
But anyway,
Corey, you might add.
yeah.
Oh, if you start suing Clint Story, I'm going to every show. Every
Right. Okay, Joe, what was the 4 again?
Imagine, All Things Must Pass, Band on the Run, and Ringo.
Okay. Ken Michaels.
Easy for me. I wanted to pick one from each. Paul, definitely Flowers in the Dirt. I'm always in the mood to hear Flowers in the Dirt. There's so much variety on that album. Never get tired of hearing it ever. John, I picked Mind Games, kind of because as much as I love Plastic Ono Band and Imagine, there is a fatigue factor there. I've heard those albums so much. Mind Games sounds so fresh to me, and I love every single song on Mind Games. Well, Only People is probably the weakest, but still, I love all the songs on there. And when you've got 2 killer ballads, actually 3, if you consider I See Miss Sen, Out the Blue, and I Know. 3 of my favorite songs from John's solo career. I'm going with Mind Games. Let's see, George. Well, Living in the Material World, which is the most important album to me because of all the spiritual songs in there that mean so much to George. The Light That Has Lighted the World, Be Here Now, Who Can See It. As much as I love All Things Must Pass, and I could very easily go with that because you've got 2 albums of great material. It's just the songs on Material World touch me more. And every single song on there is a winner. And That Is All is quite possibly his greatest love song in his solo career, as far as I'm concerned. And that's saying a lot. And with Ringo,
I would say, Ken, if you're on a desert island, you have to have songs like Be Here Now and That Is All.
Oh, good stuff, Joe.
And with Ringo, as much as I always praise his big comeback with Time Takes Time, which is a marvelous album, and the albums with Mark Hudson especially, I'm still going to go with Ringo. Ringo is such a classic album. How can I not have Photograph there? Which could arguably be his greatest song in his solo career, and there's a lot of great ones. And 6 O'Clock, which I think is, the best song that any of the other Beatles wrote for him. My opinion, You and Me, Babe, Oh My, You're 16, all those songs. It's a fantastic album from start to finish. So, and ironically, 3 of the 4 albums, all from 1973. Your year, Tom.
Yes.
Wow.
I love it.
You came along best time, born at the right time.
Yep. I didn't pick one for all 4. I went with Mind Games as well, Ken. I think Mind Games has just really, for me, is just an album that I've been loving more and more these days, especially the song I Know, which has just catapulted to the top of his song list for me. I just really appreciate that song more than I ever have, and thought it's great. Now the Blue, of course, and then the single Mind Games, just altogether, I think a wonderful album. Obviously All Things Must Pass for the reason Joe said. I mean, it is a journey. I mean, there's just so much going on that album that I still don't get bored with that album. It just I can play it often, and it's just you're going a lot of different directions on that album, and it's great. And then I picked Ram and Back to the Egg because I love just about every single song on both of those albums. And I just, if I'm going to be on a desert island, I want to enjoy every damn thing I hear. With those.
I don't hear Ringo the Fourth in there.
Well, that was if there was 5 albums, but it was just 4.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, all right, moving on. Speaking of Ringo, Tony DeMeo, who's watching, our good friend Tony, who's been a loyal fan for a long time. Who do you think was the best songwriter for Ringo to work with? So I think he meant as a co-writer, a partnership. And you can also mean an individual if you want to as well. But who worked best with Ringo as a co-writer? And this time we'll start with Ken.
There's a lot of really good collaborations that Ringo
Right.
has done, but it comes down to two people. There's Vinnie Poncia, there's Mark Hudson. The difference between the two of them is that with Mark Hudson, almost everything had a third songwriter or a fourth songwriter.
Right.
There are very few that are just Ringo and Mark. Vinnie Poncia, it was always just Ringo and Vinnie. And though I never counted, there's something like 15 songs that Ringo and Vinnie wrote together in the 70s, including Oh My My. And I was always so impressed with the songs they wrote together on Ringo the Fourth, Tom. I loved the 6 songs there, although Out on the Streets, I'm not crazy about. Yeah. But there's a lot of good material there. Gave It All Up is one of my favorite of Ringo's solo songs. Crying is a fantastic tune from Ringo's Rotogravure. I love Old Timer Lovin' from Bad Boy. Oh My My, I mentioned before. Ooh Wee from At Vienna. There's a lot of really good songs there. And there's no doubt about it. If you're looking for quantity, you got to go with Mark Hudson. But like I said, it's not like it's strictly Ringo and Mark. You've got all the songs from, Vertical Man, Ringo Rama, Choose Love, and the Christmas album, and the songs on Liverpool 8. It's a lot of material there that Ringo worked on with Mark.
With Mark, right.
And but still, and then there's all the other artists that he's done like 3, 4, 5 songs that he's written with since the Mark Hudson years. And then there's Joe Walsh, and I think he worked great with Joe. But definitely, I'd have to pick if it's someone that it was strictly Ringo and one writer, you got to go with Vinnie Poncia. If it matters to you whether or not there were several writers on the song, then go with Mark Hudson.
Okay, fair enough. I'll go next, and I was over the years, after the Mark Hudson split, I've been wanting him to write with Dave Stewart more, because I really enjoy the songs that he's co-written with Dave Stewart, especially So Wrong for So Long, It's Not Love That You Want. I love the Looking Back song, the biography songs, Roy and the Hurricane, The Other Side of Liverpool, and Liverpool 8. I tend to enjoy those songs. So as somebody that wants to be more of a co-writer like Ringo has been doing over these last since these Renaissance years, I would like to see him work with Dave Stewart, because I think the stuff that they've done together has been some quality stuff. So I'm going to go with Dave Stewart's. Kit?
I interpret the question as someone who's written songs primarily for Ringo, but but there's one that he kind of co-wrote with Ringo. So just to clarify that. I really thought George Harrison knew how to write for Ringo.
Yeah,
I mean, he really did. Knew how to write for his voice. Knew how to write for his sense of humor. And I just love, and wrote some of his biggest hits on top of everything else. I mean, It Don't Come Easy, Photograph, Rack My Brain, You and Me, Babe, of course, in that case, co-written with Mal. I mean, it just, it goes on and on. I think, those are some of the best songs that Ringo did. Sunshine Life for Me, I don't know if I mentioned that. I mean, all wonderful songs, and among my favorites of Ringo's. And I just think George just had such a gift for it. I mean, even you see it, in Get Back, when he's helping Ringo with Octopus's Garden. When you see him helping with some of the words, they just really worked well together, really, and George was really in tune, I think, with the kind of songs Ringo wants to do, and George just had that gift of writing for his range and for his personality. And so I thought George was, I wish they had done more collaborating.
Right. Well,
I really do.
it was definitely the most successful team. I mean, if you want to look at it as success wise, I mean, he definitely had the most success with George by far, I would say.
Yeah.
You know,
The singles.
yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
Joe?
Well, not just looking at it as success, in my opinion, but some of the best songs are written with George, or George wrote, for Ringo. When we were going into doing this show, there, yeah, as I said, I didn't want to read the questions in advance. I had a chance to read them in advance. I wanted to be surprised, but one of the downsides of that is you can't prepare certain answers like this.
Right.
If I had it in advance, I would have probably looked up more material and looked up Dave Stewart tracks, because I don't always know exactly what did Dave Stewart write exactly with him. I got a pretty good idea with Vinnie Ponce of what he did and stuff, and maybe some other writers I could have even found. Oh, I like these guys together. But as I'm sitting here waiting for all of you, I was thinking George Harrison. That was my answer, and I was surprised when Kid came up with the same thing. I'm going to go with George, and I can't really add anything to it in the interest of time. I'll just say George. I think they worked good together, loved each other, and I think George knew how to write with and for Ringo. And I was going to bring up the Octopus's Garden bit too, that you see in both Let It Be and Get Back, how he's helping him with that. Yeah. I think some of the best stuff. It sounds so obvious. It's like, oh, it's got to be a Beatle, but a Beatle friend. Well, yeah, I think that's some of the best stuff. With George.
Very cool. Good. We're gonna add a Beatle.
Taste, Joe.
Yeah, very good. we're gonna add a Beatle question in here, even though everybody knows we're a solo Beatles podcast. But I really like this question from our buddy Rob S. Rob's Skier Music. Check out his YouTube channel. It's wonderful. And his question is, what do you feel is the most beautiful Beatles song? And it's there's many out there, and I'd like to get what our listeners their thoughts on this question as well. This time we'll start with Kit.
This, it always brings a tear to my eye, and I appreciate it more and more every year, which is In My Life, which we just talked about a little bit earlier. The beauty of the words. I mean, it's just the tenderness, the universality of the words as well. I mean, it's just, to me, it's such a perfectly crafted song, and then in the middle, the wind-up piano, which of course, when for years when I heard it, thought it was a harpsichord. And of course, it's very clever that it isn't, but it sure sounds like that. So you've got that Baroque kind of sound. You've got the beautiful harmonies of the Beatles on key phrases. Wonderful, emotional vocal from John. I just and then that very end when John's vocal goes up and sings, In My Life, I Love You More. It just gets me every time. It's just beautiful as a song and beautiful in sentiment.
Okay, very good. Joe?
Well, when the question was asked, I went with the first thing that popped in my head as the most beautiful. And the first thing I thought of was Here, There, and Everywhere. And there's not anything I'm going to add to it. It's a beautiful song. And when you said it, it was the first thing that I thought of as beautiful. If I really took the time, maybe I'd come up with something else. Maybe beats that. But it's the first thing beauty that popped in my head.
Okay, cool. Ken?
Well, ironically, I had two songs that entered my brain immediately, and it was In My Life and Here, There, and Everywhere.
There you go. What does that tell you?
Also of excellent taste.
Here, There, and Everywhere, I probably would give the nod to, because come on, they're both gems. There's no doubt about it. The melody of Here, There, and Everywhere is absolutely exquisite. The vocal delivery of Paul, the harmonies with the others on the song, the way the song flows. It's just a perfect song. And even Paul himself, when asked of all the songs you've written, which one are you most proud of? And you would think he would say Yesterday, since it's, the most covered song, I think, of all time. But he goes with Here, There, and Everywhere. And I can't argue with that. It's as perfect a song as you could write. So is In My Life. But for my taste, I think I'll go with Here, There, and Everywhere.
It wasn't Hey Bulldog?
Wasn't Want Honey Pie.
Gorgeous.
all great picks. Yeah, all great picks. I don't know why. I know. I mean, because I think this is beautiful, and sometimes sadness can be beautiful. But She's Leaving Home for me.
It's a saddest.
I just think is, especially with that opening harp playing, I think is absolutely gorgeous, and the instrumentation throughout I think is great, and and Paul and John together on that I think is beautiful as well. And yeah, it's a sad little story, but it's done very beautifully, and I'm just gonna go with that.
It is a beautiful arrangement.
Right,
it really is.
Yeah.
There's so many.
Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
I was thinking of Old Brown Shoe, but
right. There you go. I hope I'm pronouncing this right, but he is here now, and it's the Real Jackson. And his question is have any of you listened to Macca's orchestral work, and what do you think of them? Joe, we'll start with you.
I knew you'd start with me first for that one. The answer is no, I have not, and I'm ashamed of myself. I'll take off my headphones now. No, I should be more interested because it's Paul. I haven't heard Liverpool Oratorio. I haven't heard Ocean's Kingdom. Which although I have some of these things in the collection, I don't know why. I just haven't gotten to them. I'm not really that interested. Although I think it's a great feather in the cap that Paul. We talked about. We were talking earlier amongst ourselves about Paul's many different achievements and styles he's done. I think it's fantastic that the man does everything. He can do it all. But I just haven't. I have not been into it, so I can't give you my answer.
Well, I mean, if you're not into that kind of music to begin with, I can see how it might be hard for people to appreciate. And I'm not saying that you're not into that kind of music, Joe, but I'm just saying in general,
the ones I like, Swan Lake.
Right. Oh yeah. Stuff I like. Right. No, and I get it because it took me quite some years to really appreciate that kind of music as well. But Ken.
I have heard all of his stuff, and I think most of it is wonderful. If you're referring to the full-blown classical works,
right?
That, and there's also the shorter pieces that he's done. And I've listened to all of them. I really love Liverpool Oratorio, and it's very easy once you listen to it without even being told, you're going to think Paul McCartney wrote this. There's something about that he has trademark melodies where you just know that it's him. And the oratorio is certainly, in my opinion, the most commercial of all the stuff that he's done. Standing Stone is a tough listen because it doesn't flow the way that most McCartney melodies do for me. There's a lot of dissonance in the way that the melodies are going, and it's very unusual in that regard. Although Celebration is a beautiful piece of music from Standing Stone. Ocean's Kingdom is actually really good. And I remember the first time listening to it, one of the movements, it was either the first or the second, reminded me a lot of the music of West Side Story for some reason, and I don't quite know why. I'm sure that Paul's listened to West Side Story, but there's some really great moments on Ocean's Kingdom. But then there's this other world of all these shorter pieces of music that he's written, some of which is on Working Classical, and something like Haymakers or Spiral. A Leaf, which was a really interesting piece of work that was first on piano. They're really nice, but the thing is, you've got to take the time to really listen, because when you're dealing with long pieces of music, even if they're 10 minutes, if your ears are not trained to that, if you're used to 3-4 minute rock songs,
right,
you've got to sit down. Same thing with progressive rock. There's a lot of progressive rock songs like from Yes that take up a whole side. Not everybody is suited for that or has the patience to sit through and try and learn this stuff. It takes a while to really digest it. But I think a lot of the shorter pieces work very well, including Tuesday, which is one of the pieces that he wrote for one of his animated shorts, which is beautiful. But definitely pick up Working Classical as an album because those shorter pieces are very interesting. They're more digestible because they're shorter. But there's a lot of stuff. Once you get used to it, you'll appreciate it a lot more. I think that it's a side of McCartney that a lot of his fans have not explored. But then again, if you're not really into classical music at all, it might be a tough listen, and you may not have patience for it. But I definitely think it's worth your while. Definitely listen to Liverpool Oratorio and Ocean's Kingdom and Working Classical. Standing Stone is tougher. So.
Yeah, I agree with you a little bit. With the length of the pieces, if you're somebody that just wants to get introduced to that, I mean, Working Classical, I think, is a nice introduction to his classical music because they're shorter and they're not as time consuming, and they're not, it's not asking a lot from you as the listener. But if you do then enjoy that, I think you will really enjoy Liverpool Oratorio. I am a big fan of Standing Stone. I think it's a wonderful piece from Paul, and it's a very courageous piece. I mean, it's very different. There's some different stuff in there that you wouldn't expect from Paul in there, and I think it's a really good piece. The Ocean's Kingdom, like you said, I wasn't expecting anything out of this because it's music for a ballet. I ended up really enjoying it, and it was just I play it every once in a while when we're just doing chores around the house, and and I'll play that, and it's just a really beautiful piece of music. It's an area that I wish more McCartney fans would just take the chance, even if you're not a fan of that style of music, to get Working Classical, and if you enjoy that, then maybe venture out to his other pieces. Kit.
All right, you've convinced me. I'm going to pick up Working Classical because that's one of the things that has kind of intimidated me. That it is kind of like, where do you start? Because I'm not admittedly a real classical aficionado. I mean, I love jazz. I love many other forms of music, but classical is just one that I've never fully explored. And so that has been a thing for me, and maybe other fans too, is, he has done, a number of classical works. It's, where do you start? And so it sounds like Working Classical is the place to start as an introduction. And so I think that is what I will do. So
cool.
I will check that out.
I look forward to hearing your thoughts. Okay.
Absolutely.
Here's one that I like. I like this one a lot. The person's name is not pronounceable in my opinion, but if he's listening, hopefully you are, and you'll be happy that we answered this question. So the question is what do we think is Macca's most Lennon-esque song, and what do we think is Lennon's most Macca-esque song? You know what I mean? So what Lennon song reminds you of McCartney, and what McCartney song reminds you of Lennon? And I've thought about this. If you guys need a second to think about it,
I have my McCartney one. It sounds like Lennon.
Right. And to me, when I think of McCartney, being Lennon-esque, I kind of think, you want something to reflect, honesty, truth, something like that. And when I think that, I sometimes think the song Happy With You, because I think he is telling us about him and, his feelings and how he feels now. And, he's in a better place. And then, he lets us know, that he wasn't in such a bad place. And I think that's kind of Lennon-esque in a way. Maybe not so much musically, but I think lyrically, to me, that's kind of Lennon-esque. And Lennon, which would remind me of McCartney, is starting over. I can see. I mean, I can see John is, vocally all over the place, where Paul is kind of vocally all over the place on a lot of his stuff, and I really don't hear that a lot from John, and I think it is a pretty melodic song, and I think it's something that Paul would do, and maybe even Beautiful Boy as well is something that I think Paul would is kind of McCartney-esque as well. So, but that's just my thoughts, and we'll go to Kit next.
Okay. Yep, I found my notes here. Yeah, this was very interesting. This took some thought. Most Lennon-esque song by Paul. So I was thinking about something that's more confessional. Something where he's, bearing his soul more. And what came to mind was Riding to Vanity Fair, because I remember when I first heard that song, I was really taken aback, because it was really one of the first times where I thought, Paul, I just thought, wow, Paul is really, showing his anger towards somebody. And, I mean, I and also it was a little bit in parts of a little bit more of a bare bones production. Not throughout, but at times, which John would like. But it was mainly just that, that raw kind of feeling, which was not always typical of Paul to do. It was much more personal. So and it just struck me from the first time I heard it. So that's there. As far as McCartney-esque song by John, same album that you were talking about, but I chose Woman. Because even the harmonies on that, I could definitely see Paul and Linda, the part, that I love you. I mean, almost even a little Wings-ish. But definitely, it's a little bit in the realm of Maybe I'm Amazed in terms of the sentiment expressed. And very very romantic and thanking his wife for kind of putting up with his garbage and for kind of saving him, and some of the same sentiments of Maybe I'm Amazed. So I could definitely see Paul doing a song like that.
Okay, excellent. I like it. Ken?
Well, this is going to disappoint all of you, but my initial reaction was no songs. I can see, only because it's been said a lot, Let Me Roll It.
Right.
A lot of people have said it's very Plastic Ono bandish, and I can see. I'm thinking more in terms of melody and arrangement as opposed to the lyrics. Both John and Paul have such individual styles that I can't really see Paul singing John songs or John singing Paul songs. I could see their admiration for each other and Paul saying how much he likes Beautiful Boy as a song, but I can't really see him writing that song. He's written so much beautiful, sentimental stuff, Paul has, and so has John. If you're talking about lyrically and confessional, yeah, I could see Maybe I'm Amazed in that regard. Something like Some Days, where he's saying, we don't need anybody else to tell us love is real. To me, that's very, kind of like isolation in a way, just thinking about your relationship with your woman. So, but John and Paul, their styles are so individualistic, and they were even when they were in the Beatles, that I can hear certain John songs as Beatles songs, but not as a Paul McCartney song. Same thing with Paul. Certain songs he's done in his solo career, I can hear as Beatles songs, but not as John singing it. That's just how my ears are. I think their styles are so unique to each other.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. And we're gonna finish it off here.
How about me
Wait,
giving one?
no,
Oh,
Joe.
sorry,
Joe
Joe.
hasn't answered.
Sorry,
Well,
Joe.
not gonna,
My bad.
not gonna,
Go ahead, buddy.
not gonna,
Go ahead.
not gonna
Huh?
be very unique because it's the same. Both you people have said these. Let Me Roll It was the first thing that popped in my head as far as Paul sounding like John, but that was just because of the way it's recorded, and the way he sings it, and the effect, the John effect. It sounds like something that John would do as far as the production, or his voice sounding kind of like changed a little bit, whatnot. That's the first one. Then I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, oh man, I had a real hard time coming up with a John song that sounded like Paul. Well, I don't know if we meant sounded like, or the kind of things he's writing about. So that's when I started thinking, and it was just about the time you came out with it. I started thinking, well, just like starting over. And the reason I thought that was because, to be honest with you, it was like product. It was poppy. I mean, obviously, Paul doesn't just write, stuff that's just
Right.
product and commercial. Um, but that's the first thing that came to my mind when I was searching for something. Like, I'm not going to put something like, Steel and Glass, or something like that on there. So I don't know. I just started thinking it. Even though in the song, just like starting over, it's John with his own feelings, true feelings about him and Yoko trying to get motivated again to kind of like start over and be in love again like they used to. That's the kind of stuff Paul would sing about also, besides the fact that it's kind of poppy and like for a
Right.
commercial hit. It's also in style a hit and poppy, but it also has that sentiment of, we love each other, let's get together kind of
Right.
thing. So that was
Cool.
a good choice.
All right. Very cool.
Yeah.
We'll try to end it real quick with this one, and I know he's here, and our buddy Jeremy, Mr. Astro Jer. And this one real quick is, what do you think the odds are of getting a Ringo box set with the 50th anniversary of the Ringo album coming out next year? And Joe, we'll start with you. What do you think the odds are?
Great timing, because today I just happened to listen to the Ringo album during my morning walk. I put the earbuds on and I was listening to it. I think the odds, what do I think should be, or what are going to be? It should definitely be, because,
Right.
of course, it's a big anniversary. It's a big album for Ringo. But I think that, I don't know if Ringo really is in focus himself with thinking this. Does Ringo have to make the decision? Does the company have to make the decision? Hopefully Ringo's thinking about it. And Ringo is proud of that album. And Ringo does recognize that it was really great. And he should be proud of it. So, do I think it's going to happen? I don't know. It really should, and I hope Ringo's thinking along those lines himself, and he can kind of like push for it.
Okay. All right, Kit.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Joe. It's two questions. Should it and will it? I would love to see it. I mean, I think it'd be a great box set, and it was a big hit album when it came out. But the question is, depending on, as you said, Joe, who's making the decision here? Is the record company going to make the decision? Well, I mean, they're obviously going to make at least part of the decision. Is it going to sell? That's going to be the main thing.
Right.
I mean, to be very cold and calculating here. Is it going to sell enough copies to warrant a box set? And that's going to be the question. I mean, we buy it. Obviously, the hardcore fans will buy it. But how many? I mean, that's the question. But that's open for debate. But sure, I mean, I'd love to see it.
Yeah, well, can I always say, I'm going to say, I say this all the time when that goes on, and Kate, you're not the only one who says it. I hear people say this with movies, certain movie box sets on DVD and Blu-ray. Are they going? Is it going to sell? Is it going to sell? And the thing is, some of the stuff that's out there, And it doesn't mean I don't like these things. I'm just going to say, my old standby is the Trogs, the box set of the Trogs. I mean, really,
Yeah,
other than
true.
Wild Thing, I mean, really,
Yeah.
and Bobby Gentry. I love Ode to Billy Joe. I like Fancy. I like a song called Mississippi Delta. I mean,
Right.
I like Bobby Gentry, but people take chance. They put these things out. So I don't understand. It's not
Yeah.
you, kid. I'm just saying that it is. I wonder if
No,
they
I know
think
what you're
about
saying.
it. Yeah, I wonder if they think about it that much. I mean, Ringo, one of the Beatles, with
Yeah.
all the Beatles participating on it, if they can, make a case for that and
Yeah.
promotion,
Right.
and all the there were hits on it, maybe. But I hope
Yeah.
they could be thinking like you said, will it sell? And I hope they're not
Hmm.
thinking that,
Right.
because
I
Yeah.
would
sell
I hope
better.
not either.
I would be curious to know how many copies and how many sold when Capitol reissued the Ringo album and Goodnight Vienna a few years back for the 75th anniversary. Those were reissued, and I know Friday Music has been reissuing some of his stuff as well, but he's never gotten a box set of for any of his albums. Really, I mean, there's been
No.
really no big reissue campaign for his albums. They get the release on CD and then they go out of print. As fast as they put them out. So it would be interesting. So, but yeah, I mean, who does make that decision? Would Ringo want that? I mean, I would hope so. Would we all like that? Yeah. And would
Sure.
the people that make the final decision like that? Who knows? But I wouldn't put too much stock into it just because of the history already that we know. I mean, there is no box sets for Ringo. There was a 45 little set for Record Store Day a few years ago, but I mean there's really, besides these reissues from Friday Music and Capitol for the 75th anniversary, there hasn't been anything. So, but Ken?
Yeah.
Well, I have to agree with all of you are saying. The thing is, with all these box sets, even the other solo Beatles box sets, we don't really know how well they're selling. They're not
Right.
charting, on the Billboard Top 200, most of them. So, I don't really know how much has to sell to warrant for it to come out. And like you said, Joe, there's a lot of these artists out there who might have had one or two hits and they have box sets. So why can't Ringo? The thing is, as someone who thinks that everything the Beatles have done, group and solo, should have a box set, obviously I'd love to see the Ringo album have one. And if there ever was going to be one from Ringo, that has to be the one because it was
Right.
successful. You've got a great list of musicians to back him up. You got the other three Beatles on there. Ringo just hasn't said anything about it, and I don't know how much he would be pushing for it. He did mention several years ago about the possibility of an Apple Years box set, kind of like what happened with George Harrison, but not a box set on one album.
Right.
And also, I know there's a bootleg that I have with different mixes of songs from Ringo. I don't know how much extra material there is of outtakes and stuff like that. You got to figure that as well. It should at least get like a double CD, I would think, something like that.
There's got to be demos out there, first takes. I mean, there's got to be something.
I hope so. I haven't come across them on bootlegs. But yeah, I'd love to see it. Anything is possible. I think, unfortunately, as much as I want all of Ringo's albums to be given some kind of special treatment, if there ever was going to be one, it would have to be that one. And, the timing is perfect for that. But I think, if there ever was going to be one, Ringo would be the first one to tell you. And he would announce it and we'd know about it. And these days you find out about box sets like 2 months before they come out. Pretty close to the release date. So they're pretty tight-lipped, for quite a long time. So my guess is, if there is going to be one, we wouldn't even know about it till the middle of next year, unless somebody directly asks Ringo about that.
Okay.
I certainly want it, though.
All right. Very good. Well, that was the list of questions that we got sent to us. I haven't seen really any in the comment section, so I think we're just going to end it there. We're 2 hours in, and let's call it a day here, and we'll go around the horn here and see what everybody's got going on in their lives outside of Talk More Talk, and we will start with the Queen. Take it away.
Okay, well, first off, before I get to my stuff, you can, of course, reach us of course, on our YouTube channel, which thank you all who've already subscribed. And if you haven't, well, what are you waiting for? All you have to do is just hit the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified of any upcoming videos, just ring the bell, as the kids say, and you'll be notified of any upcoming videos. You can also find us on any podcasting platform, anyone you can think of if you like listening to the audio version. You can also find us on Facebook, on Twitter at talkmoretalk1, the number 1, on our website, talkmoretalk.com. And you can email us at talkmoresolotalk@gmail.com. We love hearing your comments, ideas on future shows. We really love hearing your feedback. We couldn't do this show without you guys. So please feel free to get in touch. As far as I go, I recently was on Sam Wiles' show, Paul or Nothing, where I talked about, surprise, surprise, Paul's Orlando show. And, but it was really fun. We, just talked about, all the adventures I had there. So that is up on his page on the Paul or Nothing site. So do check that out. And recently taped an episode of When They Was Fab. We also talked about the Orlando adventure, because I went with Ed to the Orlando show, and so that episode will be up pretty soon on his channel. Just follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and you'll find out when that will air. And let me think. Oh, and I also have my classes this fall are up at the Monmouth website, and I will have that link up on my page. I think it's already up on the Talk More Talk Facebook page, and I'm going to be teaching a 2-class series on the roots of rock and roll. Really excited about this. First class will be in September, second in December. You'll be hearing more about this, as the time gets closer, but you're going to learn about the different genres that make up rock and roll. I am super excited about this. So, as I said, you'll be hearing more about it as the time goes on, but you can register for it right now if you want to.
Wait a minute. So what you're saying is rock and roll came from other genres? What?
I know, it's hard to believe.
You learn something new every day.
They're actually, yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's going to be really fun. Looking forward to it. I'm going to be working all summer on these classes. So,
cool.
So yeah, I think that's everything.
Very cool. One of these days I will have to attend these classes because they sound great, and and I always hear great things about them. So I will have to do one of these days.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, you better.
You. I will. All right. Thank you, Kid. Joe, we'll move on to you.
All right. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel, Mean Mr. Mayo. I have a show called Fab Gab. We did a show last time, the 40th anniversary of Tug of War. We basically just ranked the songs on there from least favorite to most favorite. And I had Kid O'Toole on there as my special guest. And also, I mentioned earlier, I have a video of the Ringo show, not the whole show, but my experience going there with my friend Robert. And we had a good day out there and got to see the strawberry fields. And then we went to the show. I think it's a fun video all in all. So check that out. All right. And as far as going back to Fab Gab, we're going to be doing another show. I'm going to have a guest. I hope he can make it. I won't say what it is yet. Well, we never did the Please Please Me album, believe it or not, as far as going through all the tracks on that and trying to rank those. So we're going to do that this Sunday. So it'll be live if you want to go over to my channel. Should be 2:30. I think
The
about.
guest is Paul.
You gave it away. You gave it away. 2:30 p.m. Fab Gab with the Please Please Me album. That's Sunday at 2:30. And last, as we said, I'm going to be going to see Paul live this Thursday at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, and there should be a video about all that stuff. And I hope I get to see Paul as he arrives.
Yeah.
So,
We'll watch.
Because the last time in 2016 I was at MetLife Stadium, it was like Zoom. Because I noticed a lot of fans put up these cool videos where Paul's really like the cars go very slow and he's like, hey, it's really a cool moment. I remember, but in New Jersey, it's like,
right. Okay, cool. Thank you very much, Joe. As for myself and the my other show, Two Legs, a Paul McCartney podcast, my co-host Andy and I, we just posted our episode with Terry Crane talking about his wonderful NEMS book and a lot about Brian as a manager and the business as a whole, and learned a lot from Terry. I mean, he did some outstanding research, and I mean, a lot of the product in there is stuff I've never seen and stuff you'll see sometimes at a flea market, like in Joe's videos. I'll tell you what, I still see those lunch boxes from time to time. They might be all rusted out, but you'll still see them. So that's that there. I like the Queen also was on the Sam's Paul or Nothing to talk about my experience at the SoFi show a couple weeks ago, and this weekend, this Saturday, for some particular person's 80th birthday. I forget the name, but we are we just we did 3 hours of us ranking his albums, 26 in total, and we had just a blast, just talking about these albums and where we placed them and everything. So it was a lot of fun, and hopefully you guys have a good time watching that. And also don't forget, this is record store day is coming up this Saturday, where the Women and Wives 12-inch LP is coming. So I hope a lot of you are able to pick that up. And again, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and hopefully you'll like our videos. Ken?
Yeah, well, first of all, let's also mention that for Paul's birthday, the four of us just recorded a show prior to celebrate the 80th birthday, and we all mentioned reasons why we admire Paul.
Yep.
And it was a good, fun show. So that'll be coming up exactly on Paul's birthday. So if you can, check that out. I'm glad you mentioned Terry Crane, because when his book came out, I interviewed him, and that interview is on my website. So between your interview and my interview, there's so much you can learn about collector's items. And he really knows his stuff, especially what's the most valuable collector's items that came out in the U.S. As U.S. products. Really great guest, great book you should check out. On Things We Said Today, my other podcast show, we just did a show on what we call the Green Album, kind of going along the lines of the Red and Blue Album. What would be the next compilation, but it would be all solo music. And we went through the years 1969 through 75, and we each put together our own list of what we think should be on there. How much of it are hits? How much of it are deep cuts? How much of it are a combination of both? Did any of us do mainly hits? The way to check that out is to go to our YouTube channel for Things We Said Today. Please subscribe to that. It's also now on most of the major platforms, including Spotify as well, Podbean, I believe iTunes. Yeah, we're definitely on iTunes, and iHeartRadio as well. So and then Darren and I, well, we talked about the Ringo and Paul shows Darren got to go to all 3 shows at the Beacon, so he can share his experiences about those with Ringo. And that's on Things We Said Today. There's my website, kenmichaelsradio.com, where every single week there's Beatles trivia. You can win 1 of 10 great prizes. Just adding my one last copy on Blu-ray of Backbeat to give away as one of the prizes. And I haven't done it yet, but right when the show's over, I'll be posting my trivia or game. It will be something about Paul for his 80th birthday. So, and then there's my YouTube channel, Ken Michaels Radio. It's kind of a dry spell at the moment. I haven't had a new show in about a week. It can happen. But as we all know, it never rains, but it pours. There might be a period when I don't have anything, and then I'll get 5 interviews all at once. And I'm expecting quite a lot of them in the next few weeks. If you can, check it out. We just did a show, which is part of my new Young Blood series, in which I invite people who are fans, podcasters, DJs that are 40 and under to give their perspective on something regarding the Beatles. And we had Scott O'Rourke on, who does a Beatles show every other week on WUSB, Stony Brook University's college radio station on Long Island, and Ethan Alexanian, who does Fans on the Run. And I did ask them, if you could attend the session of a Beatles album, which one would it be? And which solo album would you like to have attended? So they both give their own opinions about that. So yeah, if any of you are DJs or podcasters and you're of the younger ilk, unlike us, we're very,
Shut up.
You know,
I'm young.
That, just get in touch with me. And my email, if you want to get in touch with me, is everylittleThing@att.net. Please subscribe to Ken Michaels Radio. I'm in the 900s now. Want to get up there to 1,000. And thanks to everyone that's been watching. Can't wait to do more shows.
Cool. Yeah, I wonder, going back to your last episode, Things We Said Today, if Capitol would have been able to do that without their permission. I wonder if they could just like sneak in, kind of like what they did with the George Harrison best of, kind of like, half Beatles, half the solo career, where they just take, they could do a double album or a single album, take, 4 or 5 from each and, pop it on a record or two. It would have been interesting if the Beatles could have stopped that themselves from it happening. Or Capitol just said, what, screw it. You guys are, out of here anyway, so let's capitalize.
This concept of doing this was one of the most difficult. I came up with this idea. I had no idea. I should have known how tough it would be if you had a double CD to put together. There's so much great music that came out of the first 5 years, plus want to include 69 with Give Peace a Chance, Cold Turkey, going into Instant Karma. If you want to include album cuts, how do you possibly narrow it down to 2 discs? And it was tough for all of us, but I think we all did a great job. And
some good picks there. Yeah, absolutely. All right, everybody, thank you very much for joining us. This was a blast, and I think we've got our next episode already planned out, and I think this is one that everybody has been really looking forward to, and I really can't wait for this episode. So 2 weeks from today, we're gonna have another fun one coming for you, and I really can't wait to get everybody's thoughts on this.
I'm gonna have to promote this one heavily.
Right.
Yeah. I think you're all gonna like it.
It's coming in 2 weeks. It's gonna be here quick before you know it. So for my good friends here, Joe Mayo, Kid O'Toole, Ken Michaels, I'm Tom Hunyadi saying, all I want to do is boogaloo. Take care, everybody.
Happy birthday, Paul.
Happy birthday,
yes,
Paul.
Happy birthday. 80
and
years young.
Watch for our show on the 18th. They'll drop on the 18th. Our salute to Paul.